My wife told me she was traveling for work, but I later discovered she was having an affair with a younger colleague and spending my money on gifts for him. I packed up her belongings, handed her boyfriend the purchase receipts, and kept the house. My name is Daniel, I am 41, and I work as a regional logistics manager for a retail distribution company. I live in a mid-sized suburb outside Cleveland, and most of my days are predictable: early commute, long spreadsheets, gym in the evening, quiet weekends maintaining the house I bought 10 years ago. I prefer routine because it keeps expenses low and decisions simple. I handle the household finances and long-term planning since numbers are part of my daily work anyway. The house is legally mine because I purchased it before marriage and never refinanced jointly. I am not a dramatic person, and I document everything important, partly habit, partly caution. My circle is small, mostly coworkers and 2 longtime friends from college. I rarely travel except for scheduled business reviews every quarter. That routine matters later. Stability has always been my default setting. My wife Allison is 37, works in corporate training, and we have been married for 6 years, together for 8. We live together in my house and share regular expenses, though I cover the mortgage and most larger payments. For most of our marriage, Allison had a sharp personality that friends described as confident and direct. In private, it often came across as impatient and dismissive, especially when she did not get her way quickly. I tolerated it because she was organized, social, and usually dependable with work obligations. About a year ago, her company began sending her on short regional trips for training sessions, nothing unusual for her field. At first, the travel schedule looked normal, 2 or 3 nights every month. Then suddenly it became almost every other week. The first odd detail was not the travel itself, but the spending. Our joint account showed a steady increase in small withdrawals and card charges labeled as business meals that were never reimbursed. When I asked casually, she brushed it off and said accounting was slow and that I worried too much about minor expenses. The tone was sharp enough to end the conversation, but not convincing enough to quiet the question that started forming in the back of my mind. A week later, she announced another trip over breakfast like she was reading a weather report. 2 nights in Chicago. Client training. She did not ask, she informed. When I said Chicago was new for her territory, she rolled her eyes and told me I had no idea how her job worked, then added that if I kept interrogating her, she would start keeping things to herself. That was her favorite move. Turn a normal question into me being the problem. I let it go in the moment, but I started paying attention like I would at work when inventory numbers do not reconcile. Same mindset. No drama, just data. That afternoon, I opened our credit card portal and filtered by merchant category. The charges were not insane, but they were weird. A boutique men's clothing store in a mall near her office. A sneaker shop I had never heard of. A charge at a gaming store. Then the one that made my stomach drop, a jewelry kiosk purchase for a men's bracelet. None of it was stuff Allison would buy for me. She hates shopping for other people. She calls it mental labor and acts like it is beneath her. When she got home from that Chicago trip, she walked in with a bright little energy that did not match her usual exhausted travel mood. She kissed me quickly, tossed her suitcase down, and immediately went to shower. I noticed she kept her phone face down on the counter like it was radioactive. Later that night, she complained about the hotel being loud and the clients being idiots, but she smiled while she said it. Not a tired smile either. A pleased one. I waited until she fell asleep and did something I am not proud of, but I also am not going to pretend I did not do it. I picked up her phone. No snooping through everything. Just her work calendar and the hotel confirmation in her email. The hotel was real. The dates were real. But the confirmation was for 1 adult. Not 2. Not a company block. Just 1 room, 1 guest. Then I saw the name on the loyalty account line. Not mine. Not hers. A guy named Tyler. I did not wake her up. I did not confront her. I put the phone back exactly where it was and went to the guest room to sleep. By the time morning came, the shock had settled into something colder and more useful. Clarity. The next few weeks turned into a quiet investigation. I did not accuse, threaten, or act suspicious. I just observed. Allison became looser with money and sharper with me. Any question about her schedule turned into a lecture about trust. Any request for basic transparency was framed as control. She started calling me boring again, something she had not said in years, and joked about how people at work liked her energy because she was not married to spreadsheets like I was. I learned Tyler was 29. I know this because she complained one night about how exhausting it was mentoring younger coworkers who thought they knew everything. She said his name out loud without realizing it, then snapped at me for repeating it back like I had misheard. She corrected herself too quickly and said he was just someone on her team who needed guidance. The spending escalated. Expensive headphones, a designer hoodie, a weekend charge at a hotel spa she never went to with me because she said they were overpriced and stupid. All of it went on our shared card. When I mentioned the budget, she told me I was acting like her father and that she earned the right to enjoy her life. What she did not realize was that every purchase left a paper trail, and I keep records for a living. I downloaded statements. I took screenshots. I saved receipts. I confirmed dates. The picture filled in cleanly. Every work trip lined up with hotel stays, restaurant charges for two, and gifts purchased within hours of her claiming she was too busy to text me. The final confirmation came accidentally. She left her laptop open one evening while showering. A message preview popped up from Tyler thanking her for the watch and saying he missed waking up next to her. No hearts. No emojis. Just casual intimacy. The kind people use when they think nothing can touch them. I closed the laptop, sat on the couch, and made a list. Not of emotions. Of actions. I waited for the next trip announcement because I wanted timing on my side. 2 days later she told me she would be gone Thursday through Saturday, this time for a regional leadership workshop. She said it like she was doing me a favor by warning me early. When I nodded and said okay, she looked almost disappointed that I did not argue. The morning she left, she complained that I was being distant and accused me of sulking. I told her I had a heavy workload and wished her a productive trip. That irritated her more than anger would have. She likes reactions. Calm deprives her of oxygen. Once her car pulled out of the driveway, I got to work. First call was to my attorney. I did not say affair. I said financial misuse and marital misconduct and asked what documentation mattered. He told me to keep everything and not tip my hand. The house being premarital simplified things. The joint account misuse complicated nothing. It actually helped. Next I changed passwords. Banking, utilities, cloud storage, streaming services. All of it. Perfectly legal. Nothing locked her out of necessities, just access to my financial oversight. Then I boxed her belongings. Clothes, shoes, toiletries, the decorative junk she insisted on buying and never dusted. I did it neatly, labeled everything, and stacked it in the garage. No drama. No trash bags. This was not revenge. This was logistics. On Friday afternoon, I printed every receipt tied to Tyler. The watch. The clothes. The hotel dinners. I highlighted totals and dates. Then I looked him up on social media. He was not hiding her. He just was not advertising her either. Typical. I sent him one message. Polite. Short. I told him Allison would be back Sunday and that I had something of his. He responded in under a minute, confused but curious. When Allison came home Sunday evening, she found the house quiet, my car gone, and the locks unchanged. On the kitchen counter was a folder and my wedding ring. She texted me immediately, angry, then panicked, then furious again. I did not respond. An hour later, Tyler pulled into the driveway. I watched from my car parked down the street. Not to spy, but because I did not want to be inside the house when the collision happened. I wanted witnesses without being one. Tyler stood in the driveway holding a small gift bag, smiling like someone who thought he was early for a date. Allison opened the door already irritated because she assumed it was me finally coming back to argue. Her posture changed when she saw him. Confusion first, then fear, then that sharp defensive tone she always used when caught off balance. I came back once they were both inside. I did not raise my voice. I did not insult either of them. I shook Tyler's hand and thanked him for coming. That threw him off completely. Allison immediately started snapping that this was not what it looked like and demanded to know why I was ambushing her like some insecure psycho. Same script. Different day. I handed Tyler the folder. Inside were the receipts. Every gift. Every hotel dinner. The watch he was wearing. Highlighted totals. Dates. Locations. All paid for with my money. Not hers. Mine. I told him calmly that I assumed he thought he was dating a generous woman, not someone funding an affair with her husband's accounts. I said if he wanted the gifts, that was between them, but I wanted him to understand the source. He went quiet. Really quiet. Allison exploded. She called me petty, controlling, and disgusting. She said I had no right to humiliate her and that Tyler's finances were none of my business. She accused me of spying, of violating her privacy, of ruining her life because I could not handle her being desired by someone younger. Every insult was sharp and practiced. None of it was denial. Tyler asked one question. Why didn't you tell me you were married?" She did not answer him. She turned on me instead. That was enough for him. He took off the watch, put it on the counter, and said he was not interested in drama or debt he did not agree to. Then he left. No shouting. No threats. Just gone. Allison screamed after him, then rounded on me and told me I would regret this and that I had just thrown away 6 years over nothing. I told her her belongings were in the garage and that she needed to arrange pickup within 7 days. Then I walked upstairs and closed the door. That night, she did not leave. She slammed doors, made phone calls, cried loudly, then switched back to rage like flipping a light. I stayed upstairs with the door locked and headphones on. Not because I was scared, but because engaging would only create noise instead of progress. The next morning, she acted like nothing was decided. She made coffee, talked about work emails piling up, and asked if we could discuss things calmly like adults. When I told her there was nothing to discuss and reminded her about the 7-day timeline, the mask dropped instantly. She said I was overreacting to a harmless fling, that everyone cheats a little, and that my obsession with money was the real problem in our marriage. I told her to pack a bag and leave immediately. She laughed at first, like I was bluffing. When I repeated it and pointed to the door, she shifted into anger and accused me of throwing her out like trash. I told her this was my house, legally, and that she no longer had permission to stay. I gave her 30 minutes to take essentials and said anything left behind would be boxed for scheduled pickup. No yelling, no debate. She tried bargaining again, then crying, then threatening to call people. I sat at the kitchen table and waited. When the 30 minutes were up, I opened the front door and stood there. That was the moment it clicked that this was actually happening. She left with a suitcase and her laptop, screaming that I would regret humiliating her and that Tyler would have treated her better. I closed the door behind her and locked it. I changed the locks that afternoon, not out of spite, out of procedure. That night the house was quiet in a way it had not been in years. She tried reaching out 2 days later. It started with texts. Long ones, short ones, angry ones followed by sentimental ones. She accused me of acting without warning, then said she missed our life, then circled back to claiming I had destroyed everything over something meaningless. I read the first few without responding. By the 4th message, the pattern was obvious. She was not trying to resolve anything. She was trying to re-enter. I blocked her number, not out of anger, out of efficiency. Within an hour, the messages started coming from email instead. Same tone, same swings. I forwarded the first one to my attorney, archived the rest, and then blocked that too. I updated my settings so she could not reach me through shared cloud services or social platforms. No announcement, no explanation, just closed channels. That evening, her mother called. I let it go to voicemail. The message was about forgiveness, about vows, about Allison being confused and hurt. I saved it and did not reply. I was not in a marriage anymore. I was in an exit process. The next morning, I reviewed the joint account one last time, transferred my portion out, and documented the balance. Then I froze the card. Perfectly legal. Perfectly traceable. I sent Allison a single email through my attorney outlining how she could retrieve the rest of her belongings through a scheduled pickup. Nothing else. Once the access was gone, everything went quiet. No more rage. No more manipulation. No more attempts to rewrite the story in real time. Without my money, Tyler was already gone. Without access to me, her leverage disappeared. All that was left was the reality she had avoided and the consequences she could not negotiate away. The silence felt strange at first. Then it felt stable. And stability was something she had never really respected anyway. The formal part moved faster than I expected. Once the channels were closed, the paperwork became simple. My attorney filed based on marital misconduct and financial misuse. I did not add commentary or accusations beyond what was provable. Dates, amounts, statements. The receipts did all the talking. Allison tried to contest the narrative through her lawyer, claiming emotional neglect and mutual fault, but there was nothing emotional about highlighted charges for gifts to another man. She attempted one last workaround by showing up with a friend to collect belongings early, assuming pressure would work better with an audience. It did not. I was not home. The garage was locked. My attorney handled the response and scheduled a supervised pickup window. That was the last time she tried improvisation. The supervised pickup was awkward but brief. I stayed upstairs while a neutral third party monitored the process. Allison avoided eye contact, acted irritated, and muttered about how cold I had become. She took what she could fit in her car and left the rest without comment. I had the remainder donated later. Inventory complete. A mutual friend reached out afterward asking what really happened because Allison was telling people I blindsided her and cared more about money than marriage. I sent that friend one screenshot. Just one. A receipt dated during a supposed work trip. That conversation ended politely and permanently. The strangest part was how quickly my stress dropped once she was fully gone. My sleep improved. My appetite normalized. My house felt larger, quieter, predictable again. I realized how much energy I had spent managing her moods and absorbing disrespect without labeling it as such. I did not feel victorious. I felt accurate. There is a difference. I rebuilt routines instead of relationships. Gym in the morning. Cooking again instead of takeout. Reviewing finances without surprises. The absence of chaos felt like a reward I had not known I was earning. The story did not explode publicly. There was no dramatic fallout online. Just a quiet correction, of course. And that suited me just fine. A month after she was gone, I heard how the rest of it unraveled. Not from her. From people who stopped speaking carefully once they realized I was not going to defend her or attack her. Tyler apparently figured out quickly that without my credit card backing her lifestyle, Allison was just expensive drama. He stopped answering her calls within a week. She told coworkers he had used her and that men her age were intimidated by strong women. The story shifted depending on the audience. Her job did not survive either. The same trips that were supposed to be training sessions turned into awkward questions when reimbursement audits finally caught up. Expense reports flagged gifts and meals that did not align with company policy. HR asked for explanations. She blamed accounting. Accounting had receipts. I was asked once if any of this felt like revenge. It did not. Revenge requires emotional investment. This felt like watching a structure collapse after someone kept removing load-bearing supports and insisting nothing was wrong. Gravity did the rest. I focused on rebuilding quietly. I refinanced utilities under my name only. Updated beneficiaries. Rewrote my will. The boring adult things that only feel boring when your life is not on fire. I reconnected with friends I had slowly drifted from because she found them dull. Turns out dull people are reliable and kind. One evening I found the bracelet receipt again while organizing files. I almost threw it away, then decided to keep it with the rest. Not as a reminder of her, but as proof of how clearly people reveal themselves when they think someone else is paying. The house stopped feeling like a battleground and started feeling like mine again. Not because she was gone, but because I stopped explaining myself to anyone who benefited from misunderstanding me. The divorce finalized without spectacle. No courtroom drama. No speeches. Just signatures. Which felt fitting. Because the marriage did not end in an explosion. It ended in clarity. It has been just over a year now. People occasionally ask if I would do anything differently. If I wish I had confronted her sooner or fought harder or tried to save something. The honest answer is no. I acted the moment the facts were complete. Before that, there was nothing to act on. Suspicion without proof is just noise, and I do not make life decisions based on noise. The house is still mine. It always was. I finished a few projects she never liked, repainted the bedroom, replaced the furniture she picked, simplified everything. Fewer things. Fewer opinions. Fewer explanations. My finances recovered quickly once I stopped funding someone else's double life. Stability compounds when you stop leaking it. I have not heard from Allison directly since the divorce finalized. I heard indirectly that she tells people I was cold and transactional. I am fine with that. Cold and transactional is another way of saying I noticed patterns and responded accordingly. I do not need to correct the record for people who are not there. I am not bitter. I am not angry. I am not suspicious of everyone now. I am just precise. I trust actions over words and receipts over promises. That lesson was expensive, but it paid for itself. If there is any advice buried in this, it is simple. When someone lies calmly and spends your money loudly, believe the math. Believe the pattern. Do not argue with someone who benefits from confusion. I kept the house. She kept the consequences. And life moved forward, exactly as it should.